Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Julia Mann, and I show people how they can live healthy, happy, sustainable lives by changing their habits and using cutting edge products to help them age well. And I'm ever so delighted because today I'm joined by the completely lovely Vanda Varga. And if you haven't already heard of her, she's actually describes herself as a tour guide for your mind. I love that, Vanda. Welcome.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. Now I'm going to hand straight over to you for you to tell us your habits.
Good. Thank you, Julie. So I thought I would talk to you a little bit about our self-talk and the habits that we have about our self-talk, whether it is good self-talk or not so good self-talk, empowering self-talk or more limiting self-talk. And I think this is a really, really important topic to talk about, isn't it? Because we all have both. We all have something that we call positive self-talk and we have negative self-talk as well. And this is when it comes down to our habits, doesn't it? Because if we have both anyways, then we get to decide which way we are leaning more. Yeah. As human beings, we all have an unconscious bias, a negative bias anyway, so we will listen to the negatives in our lives altogether. But at the same time, just because this is how we are wired, it doesn't mean that it has to be like that forever. It only means that it just comes as well as the positive self-talk. And I think it's really, really important for us to decide which side we want to be on. Now for that, I'm going to demystify this negative self-talk a little bit, shouldn't I? Because we think that just because it's labeled negative self-talk, I hate labels, by the way, but just because it's labeled negative, it's not supporting us and it's not actually helping us. But when we think about it and we presuppose that the following statement is true, that will change everything. So that is a presupposition or guiding principle of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, and that is that every thought, every feeling has a positive intention behind it for you, for the person having them. And when we think like that, we need to start thinking, so what is the positive intention behind that negative self-talk? What is it trying to give us? Let's presuppose that our subconscious mind is there to serve us, is there to protect us, to preserve your body, your mind, and your soul. And if it's there to do that, it obviously wants something good for you, doesn't it? And in many cases, that negative self-talk is exactly there for this reason, because it has a really important function. And in many cases, it is to protect us from harm, from danger, for whatever our mind perceives to be dangerous. Whether it's real, whether it's perceived, that's a very different question, but it's there to protect you. And when you understand that your negative self-talk is actually there to protect you, then it becomes your best friend, doesn't it? So when you do have a negative talk like, oh, I'm not good enough, or I'm not smart enough, or who do you think you are? Why do you think you can do that? You don't have the skills and all that. We can either let it start with a little marble-sized thought or feeling, and then wrap it around with all those stories, grow it into a huge elephant that then sits on you and stops you from breathing, and it becomes a really negative self-talk. Or we can look at it as a little marble. So what is my subconscious mind trying to do to me or with me or for me? That it's trying to protect me. Okay, so what is that question that it's asking? It's asking whether I am prepared. It's asking whether I'm good enough. It's asking whether I do have the skills that I need for this particular task or challenge that I have in front of me. And when we treat it as a question, and we only answer that question as if it was just a question, it becomes something so much easier to deal with, doesn't it? So then let's say the question is, do I have the skills? Who do you think you are? Do you have the skills to actually do what you set out to do? Then you can treat it as a question. Do I? Well, I have this, and this skill. I could perhaps work a little bit on those skills. And then it's so much easier, isn't it? Then that negative self-talk actually becomes your best friend, the one that looks out for you, the one that's there to support you, to empower you. And adding a bit more of that positive self-talk, the empowering one, the cheerleader voice, And can you see how the two of them can really work together in togetherness, in oneness, in really there to support you and help you to get to where you want to be and be protected at the same time? So it's all about that habit of us deciding how we want to think about that self-talk. Is it going to be my worst enemy? One that's actually there to stop me, let it grow into that elephant? Or are we just going to keep those little marbles and say, oh, it's actually my best friend. I'm going to think about it from now on as my best friend. How does that sound?
Oh my goodness, Vanda, that was absolutely brilliant. I love the way you looked at it. I love the analogy of the marble. And who doesn't love a marble?
And we get to keep our marbles if we think this way.
Absolutely. Don't lose your marbles, whatever you do. Thank you so, so much. So for those of you that really want to find out more, I imagine you will, about Vanda, all her links are going to be below this video, as will mine. So thank you so much for watching. And again, Vanda, thank you so much for those brilliant habits.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.